Hey everybody, likely you're watching this video because maybe you've shown some interest in the real estate photography that you've seen me doing, or maybe it is that you've seen me do a class on real estate photography, or somehow you've ended up with my presets and my actions and those types of things. But I wanted to talk about it just for a few minutes with you, just kind of give you a little heads up. And at the same time, if you've watched me do this on the stage, you've probably forgotten a few things. So now you get to watch it in slow motion and watch it over and over and over if you like. Well, this is me, and that's my daughter on the left of me, acting silly. And just as information, Scarlett now does all of my retouching for me. We pay her to do all of the photography retouching. So if you take a look at me in my Jeep, you'll notice that I have a computer there set up in my Jeep. It's set up on one of those policeman type desks that are permanently mounted inside my Jeep. And the Jeep is connected to Wi-Fi. And so what happens is my wife drives me around from house to house in different places. And I will get out, do the job, do a preliminary rough retouch, just mostly a raw conversion, and upload them via Dropbox to Scarlett, who will then pick them up, do the final retouching on them, and then deliver them to the client, bill the client, that type of thing. And most of the time, this whole process happens in less than 1 hour. So if we have a 9 o'clock session, I get out, I do the photography, which takes me anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, depending on the size of the house and how much chit-chatting I do, to be honest with you. And then from there, we drive to the next location. In the course of driving, it gets uploaded. Scarlett picks up on it, does the final steps to it, bills, delivers to the client most of the time before my next job, which is just 1 hour later, which would be, say, at 10 o'clock. And so that's how the day typically goes. So it's a pretty neat process as we go through the system. And of course, what this does is it builds respect for the type of thing that we do, because real estate agents are business people. They're always in a hurry. They're always looking for their stuff as fast as possible. So if we can shoot and deliver in an hour, they think that's pretty cool. So let me show you some steps, some things that I do, and how you use the different presets and things like that you may have purchased. So one of the first things I want you to take note of is that I use Adobe Bridge. A lot of you guys use Lightroom, and I think that's perfectly wonderful. I think it's incredible. I've just never could get used to Lightroom. My problem with Lightroom is I find it very clunky. You have to do certain things in a certain order and certain ways. Whereas Bridge is just like, a file explorer, but it lets you see the pictures real pretty. And most importantly, it allows you to access Adobe Camera Raw. And here's a little unknown fact a lot of people don't know, but they think, Lightroom is something special. But all Lightroom is a portal that gets you into Adobe Camera Raw. Photoshop can act as a portal to get you into Adobe Camera Raw. Bridge can act as a portal to get you into Adobe Camera Raw. But Bridge allows you to do it without all the clunky restrictions that Lightroom requires of you. So you're going to see me working inside of Bridge. And then Bridge allows you to move things around, this little favorites area can be resized, and this can be resized. And if you don't want your folders here, you want them across the top or across the bottom, whatever, you can move all that stuff around. But it's set up kind of the way I like it. And the 5 images that you see on the screen right now is a typical example of a 5 bracket shot that I did, and this is just one bathroom. And these images that you see on the screen are how it looks, coming straight off the camera. So as you can see, it's nothing special. It's just, F8, click, 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 5 different brackets, about a stop and a quarter each. So one of the first things I do is I highlight all 5 of those images. I right click, and then I go to Develops, and I use my Inside preset. So this Inside preset just does this generic thing that mostly takes into consideration lots of, regular incandescent screw-in light bulb type stuff. And in this particular image, you can notice that it's turned them very blue, but that's mainly because there's so much window light in this particular bathroom. Now I know I want to incorporate these windows. So I right click on it, go to develops, and change that to real estate windows. More on that in a minute. Then I take the one that looks to me probably is going to be the best, or what we would consider on exposure, which is the middle image. And then I open it up, take my little eyedropper here tool, and I click on something white. And that gets me even closer to the correct white balance. Now from this stage, there may be some slight tweaking, like I think the clarity is just a little too high, so I'm going to bring that down. Highlights might need to be bumped a little bit. The whites might need to be bumped a little bit. You can see my blacks and my shadows are already cranked up, so that's getting pretty close. Now, I find most everything always looks better just a little bit warm, so I'll take the temperature up to maybe 3700, just a tad, and I click done. Now, just to make sure I'm picking the right one, I highlight those 4 images, right click, develops previous conversion. Now it does it to all 4 of those remaining images. And when I look at that, I think to myself, you know what? I really think it's this image now that I look at it. This one seems a little dark. This one seems more on. So let me open that one up. Yeah, maybe just take the blacks down just a little bit. Take the shadows just a tad. Reduce that clarity just a little bit more. Take the highlights up maybe just a wee bit more. And yes, this is starting to look pretty much what I want. Now let's go. The other 3 normally, for demonstration purposes, I'm not going to do it. But normally I would hit delete right here. And just get rid of those because I'm not going to need them. Now, the window shot, this is way too dark. Okay. So to get it right, I just want to forget about what's happening inside and just look at what's going on outside. And I want that outside to be just like if I had shot it outside. Okay? So one of the first things I want to do is click on something that I know is gray, which is the concrete. And that gets me a little closer. Now everything looks dark and dingy. So I'm going to take my blacks up. That's getting a little bit closer. Take my shadows up a little bit more. That's looking better. Whites. Not too far, because then you blow out that ceiling, that blue sky. Little bit more. That's starting to look really, really nice. Maybe just a slight bump of clarity, and maybe take my vibrance and saturation down just a little bit. But that's starting to look like the way I shot it, basically. Let me play with my color a little bit. Yep, that's starting to look pretty good. Yeah, right in there. Okay, so then what I would do is I would take those 2 images. I would go Tools, Photoshop, Image Processor, and then it opens up, it goes to Photoshop. And if you've installed my actions, the action that would run, I want to save it. See, it's going to save into the same location. It's going to come processed from Bridge, save it to the same location, save as JPEG, convert to sRGB. Then I want to run the action, Real Estate Canon First Run. And it's just going to run that Canon action on it. So let me just cancel because I'm not actually going to do this. We're going to process a few files in just a minute. But just to show you what that finished image looks like, this is after all of my magic. And as you can see, it's pretty cool. And you can see the outside comes inside. You get nice sharpness and cleanness on all the different areas of the image. And it's a nice presentation of a nice, simple, but effective real estate bathroom. Okay? So this is just to show you an example of a full session that I did. And I'm going to go through each image. This is the front image. This is the front aerial image. This is the top or back aerial image. This is the ground back aerial image. Then here's the kitchen. And just as information, if you look way in the back, I could have pulled in those windows from that. But you know, it was just ugly through those windows. So it just ends up being better. Just keep it white, okay? Then this is the kitchen kind of dining kind of little area. And I am going to use some windows for that. Then this is the front living room area, and I'm going to pull in the windows for that. And then this is one of the bedrooms. It's ugly, but whatever. I'll pull in those windows. One of the bathrooms, then another bedroom, pull in the windows, and then the final bathroom. This is how I typically do the extra bathroom, not the master, is I like to show it the way you see here, showing the relationship of that bathroom. All right, so So that gives you, I don't know why that one didn't come in, but there you go. That's finally that last bedroom area, and then I'm going to pull in those windows. So that's all the raw files, okay? And here are those same finished images as we go through it. So front of the house, top, back, kitchen, dining, kitchen area, living room, master bath, bedroom, bathroom, and then front bedroom. So those are the typical 12 shots. I shoot this over and over and over and over. That real estate agents pay me to do. So now let's get real specialized and do some stuff with some of these images that you actually have, since you have my set of instructions and my set of samples. And one of the first things I want to show you is this is a typical outside shot. And all these images, as you see them on the screen right now, and probably as you've imported them, are straight off the camera. And if you look at this image, it's really nothing special, okay? It's hard to believe that this is shot even professionally. But, you know, as you can see, it's just a boring front house shot. But watch what happens when you right-click, develops, and you apply my outside preset. Watch what happens to this image with nothing else done to it. I mean, look at what happens to the sky. Look at what happens to how it helps even it out a little bit. It gets a little more punchy and contrasty, and it makes that image so much more fun to look at. Now, here's another cool effect that a lot of times people ask me, Kirk, what do you do if it's raining? Okay, this is actually shot in the rain. And the reason you can't see the rain is because rain falls at what is known as terminal velocity, and it's a little bit darker and dingier and gray skies, and so the shutter stays open for long enough that the rain simply moves faster than the shutter can stop it. So it's raining right now when this image was taken. I have an umbrella over me and my camera, and it just looks like a nice gray, you know, boring gray sky image, right? Okay, so watch how we do it. First, we apply the outside preset to it, and man, that just punches this thing up a lot, okay? It's still got a nice boring sky, but it really punched it up. Now let's open up Adobe Camera Raw by double-clicking that CR2 file, and I find it's a little too bright in here, so we're going to take the highlights down a little bit, and we're going to take the whites down a little bit. But I want you to notice the 1, 2, 3, 4th slider here under saturation and luminance. I want to make sure that all of the blues are removed for saturation, and I want all of the blue luminance raised. Okay, so by doing this, I eliminate anything that would be happening in the sky. Okay, and we're going to take the blacks down a little bit, just give it a little bit more contrast, and also take those shadows about to there. Let's reduce that clarity just a tad. All right, so now we have this image prepped, and when we get to the next stage where we develop all of these, we'll then develop them, and I'll let you take a look at what happens on how we continue the process in Photoshop. This image is a drone image, and is, you know, it's just kind of flat and boring. Honestly, when I first got my drone, I was some disappointed that I'd spent all this money on a drone and it produced these muddy looking images. Well, that was until I got to playing with it, and I'll make sure I always shoot DNG files, raw files. But now watch what happens if I go develops, and I use, this is shot with the Inspire 2, my Inspire 2 preset. Now take a look at that same image. It really is spectacular. I mean, it pops now. Same thing with the Mavic 2. Now, if you happen to have a Mavic 2 Pro, like me, no doubt you took a few images with it, and I was highly disappointed. In fact, I get hired to do this fancy resort, and I thought, wow, I've seen some beautiful stuff come out of the Mavic 2, and, you know, I got to get this sunset shot, and if you look really, really close, I'm way up on the roof shooting this image. But anyway, this is what comes off the camera. This was straight off the camera, and I got to tell you, I was so upset. I thought, oh my goodness, what have I done? What is? I gotta perform a miracle. Well, here's your miracle. Right-click, develop, go to Mavic 2 preset. now. This is just raw presets. This is no Photoshop at this point. Okay, we've done nothing special to this image other than apply just a quick preset. And look how spectacular that has made that image look. It went from muddy and depressing and sad to now incredible with just the preset. All right, so what about inside images? Well, inside images, right-click, develops. Well, before I do that, let me just show it to you. This is straight off the camera. You see all the yellow because of the yellow lights coming in from all of the screw-in type light bulbs, incandescent type light bulbs. But now watch what happens when we apply that inside preset. Boom. Let me show it to you now. Let's open it up in Adobe Camera Raw. Now you can see that we've gotten much closer. We've also evened out all of that crazy light and, reduced the blue light coming in from the windows and even out all that incandescent light. Now you just got to get a little bit closer. So take your eyedropper, click somewhere in the white area. It gets even closer to what you're trying to do. Highlights could be bumped just a little bit just from looking at it. The blacks could be taken down just a tad, and so could the shadows, and we could take down that clarity. It's a little too strong. Let's take it to about there. And so we've now taken an image that was just really, really unsellable, and we've produced something that looks really, really cool. We'll go do the rest in Photoshop in just a minute. Now, what about windows, and how do we take and pull the outside to the inside? Well, on the Windows A image, I want you to right-click, develops, and apply the preset Windows. Then on the Windows B picture, I want you to right-click, develops, and apply the inside preset. So let's work on those. We just want the outside to look like outside. So right now it's looking like maybe the highlights could come down just a tad. Shadows could come up just a little bit. Blacks could even things out right about there, and maybe just a tad bit of clarity and just a tad bit more exposure, and that's it. Now the outside looks just like outside with a lot of black around it. Now the inside, we're going to click somewhere in this area. That's a little too yellow, so we click in a yellow area. That's getting us a little closer. Take the highlights up a little bit. Reduce the blacks and reduce the shadow just a tad bit. Reduce that clarity down to about there. And you know what? That's pretty close. That's looking really, really good. All right, so now all of our images have had raw conversion. So we highlight, first of all, let's do the inspire first of all, because that's a separate action. The way you do this is you click on it, you go Tools, inside Bridge, Tools, Photoshop, Image Processor, and it opens up Photoshop, and you want to run the action under Real Estate. I have it Inspire to First Run. Run. And what that action does is, the first thing it does is it stops. And the thing with aerial images, it's kind of difficult sometimes to get the perfect crop. So I tend to leave a little extra with these. That way I can pull in like this. I can rotate it just a little bit if need be. I can get this crop just the way I want it. Maybe right about there. Hit enter, it finishes. Same thing with the Mavic 2. So there's no need for me to show you that. Well, I'll show you. It's just fast. You just go Tools, Photoshop, Image Processor, change it to Mavic 2 First Run. And it's because it's a different size camera, the Mavic 2. I like this one just the way it is. Hit the go button, and it processes off as a JPEG. All right. Now, all the rest of the images are shot with the Canon, so we'll deselect the two drone shots, and we'll go Tools, Photoshop, Image Processor, and we want to run the action Canon First Run. Run. And so now it's going to start processing that image, and it's going to run it. And it's going to allow each one of them, it's going to do all sorts of tricks and all sorts of things to it if you have those actions set up properly. And so all of the stuff that's being done to it is things I used to do manually by hand, every image. And I started noticing I tended to do the exact same things over and over and over again. So instead of doing that, what I started doing is creating these actions and adding to it and subtracting from it until I had it exactly the way I wanted. And once I got it exactly the way I wanted, I then saved off those actions, and now my world is so much faster and so much more automated. So now I have all of these images with all of the prepping done to it. Honestly, the outside image, there's not a lot to happen here. I like to pull in a line to see if my walls are straight. They are. That's all nice and straight. Yep, that's looking pretty straight. So that doesn't need that. There's no need for anything there. I like to check my horizontals. Are they straight? Well, yeah, looks like I did a really good job of shooting this one. Okay. The only thing I see that might need to happen on this one is right in here. There may need to be a little bit of lightening of the shadows. And so here's the trick. You use your dodge tool in shadow mode with protected tones checked at exposure 100%. Now when you do that, things happen real slow. And you can just give it a few wipes, and it takes those shadow areas and it lightens them right up. And just like that, I would say this image is done. So we're going to go ahead, save it. Well, actually, I'm not going to save it, but normally I would save it. Okay, next, let's go over to this outside image, where what we want to do is we want to add a nice blue sky. And I gave you all the instructions on where to set that, to put that in your actions, and how to set up that action and such. So once it's ready to go, and the images, you think, okay, I'm ready to drop in a sky, all you do is run that action to drop in a sky, which is action. Let's see, add cloud, play. And it's going to stop. Okay, the first step is it's going to stop. And I always, before anything happens, I just click in this little white area. Then I click the plus eyedropper, and I click all around that white area like that. And then, while looking at the image, I see a little bit of green in here. A lot of green on here. I'm not going to want that, but I am seeing a little coming through here, which is good. Between the trees, that's all good. So let me adjust the fuzziness a little bit. If I go too high, everything gets green. If I go too low, I start taking some away from places I want it. See how it's starting to happen in here over the power lines? So I want to not about right there. That should be a pretty good fuzziness. And I click OK. And so now, the next thing, it automatically chose my brush. We put it at 100% and in white, because I want to erase any green from areas that I do not want blue sky to show. So I don't want no blue sky to happen on my house. I don't want no blue skies to happen on my driveway or the roof. Okay, and if you see how it was a little sloppy right here, close to the house line, that's okay. But I know I don't want it on that basketball goal. So I just kind of mostly wipe around in there. Now I turn off right here, over here left in your tools palette, is this quick mask that allows you to see what's going on and turn on the dancing ants. Now you don't want to see dancing ants in the house, and you don't want to see them in the grass. So that's looking good. Now you just go Shift Control I, and that flips it. And then you just hit the mask tool, and boop, blue sky pops right in. And that's it. Flatten and move on to the next image, just like that. Okay? So that's how you do clouds. Now, the drone shot's pretty self-explanatory. I might, wrong button. I might lighten in a little bit some areas, but there really isn't usually a lot of stuff that has to happen with the drone shots. Same thing with the Mavic shot. I might lighten in a couple of little areas or darken in some of these little areas, but there really isn't much that I do after the drone image is processed. Now, in the inside image of this kitchen, a few things to take note of is you see this wall, just a teensy lean. Maybe just a slight lean on that refrigerator. This wall definitely leaning. I can see this wall is leaning also. So I have a perfect soft. Well, let me show it to you instead of just clicking it automatic. I have this perfect real estate action, And when it runs, let's run it. Let's back this thing up. Perfect. Action. Play. It stops, okay? And it allows me, if you hold down your command or control key, to shift things around like this. So the first thing I want to do is make sure all of these lines are all nice and straight, okay? Make sure these lines over here nice and straight. Make sure these lines all nice and straight. If there's some cropping, you hold down your shift key, you could do a little crop right here if necessary, or I don't like that cabinet showing, so I could crop in just a tad bit like that. But that's the big deal, is to make sure all of your lines are straight, and that's how you do it. At this point, it selects the dodge tool, again, shadows, exposure 100, protected tones. And if there's some crazy shadows that are bugging me, you know, just a little bit here, back in here, right there, just some little small crazy shadows that need to be just taken up just a little bit, I will. And that is basically all there is to it. At this point, save it, move on to the next image. So now let's talk windows. We're going to open both of these up at the same time into Photoshop, and we're going to make sure that the outside, the picture, the dark around with the window showing, is your active window. Okay, so both images are are loaded in Photoshop, but the black one is the active one. Then you go to your Actions palette and you run the blend windows, play. And right off the bat, just default, you notice, boom, windows have popped through. Now what that action did is it copied that dark image and it pasted it on top as a layer. See right here? Pasted it on top of the background layer, which is this inside layer. And then it created this layers, it opened up this layers style window and stopped. Now what I want you to focus on is this slider right here at the top, this layer, okay? And it kind of gets you started. It opens it up to this point. And what you're telling it is everything from this color black this way, I want you to get rid of it. But everything this color black this way, I want you to keep it. Now you can do a fine tuning or a feather if you hold down your Alt or Option key and split this and slide this side all the way over here. You can then now slide this kind of about right here, and that's getting much closer. Okay, and then once you get it like this, the next step, just click OK. So you can start saying, hey man, those windows have come through, but there's some funky stuff happening. Like for example, like look what's happening here in this reflection. Okay, there's also some funky stuff. Like look what it does to the color of the light bulb. It gets really funky there too. So we need to get rid of that. So it has already pre-created a layers mask, okay? And if you paint, use your paintbrush and you paint with black, you see you can undo some of the freaky stuff that happens in the light bulbs, okay? So that's the first thing we can get rid of. Another thing we can undo is some of the weird stuff that happens in this reflection, okay? And get some of this weirdness that's reflecting over here on the wall. Let's get rid of some of that. All right. And okay, so now it's starting to look pretty good, but there's one last little cleanup that you can do, and it happens really, really neat and really, really fast. Is you now come off of the mask and click on the main image, go back to your dodge tool, shadow mode 100, protected tones, and just give us a little wipe around inside the windows. That cleans that up. All right, give us a little wipe right here. That cleans that up. That cleans this side up right there. Gets us a little bit better and closer to what we're looking for. And okay, just like that. That's pretty close. Now, I'm getting a little funky stuff going on right here. So you know what? I'm going to go back to my paintbrush, back to my layers mask, and I could just, you know, give it a little fast wipe like that. And I could take my opacity down a little bit if I really wanted to get particular. And there we go. I kind of like that, just like that. Clean that up right there. And that's good. All right, so now the outside has come inside. Flatten that and save. And just like that, you now have windows. And now in my Photoshop presets and my whole post-production packet, that you probably have, you have all of these finished images that you can go take a look at, compare what you do to what I do. So now you've actually seen me do it. Hopefully this was of help to you and helping you perfect this whole real estate process. Of course, if you have questions, by all means, ask them to me on the Pro Forum. As you know, we have a support thread specifically for this post-production Photoshop items. So thank you very much, and I hope I helped someone. Take care.